How's it going, everybody? My name is LuckyBunz, and in today's video, I'm going to be covering everything you need to know to get yourself ready for the Serene Retreat event in Pokémon GO. With that being said, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so first of all, this event is going to be taking place from May 30th to June 3rd at 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. local time. You're going to have the following bonuses: 1/2 hatch distance, 1.5 time hatch experience. The MP collection limit is going to be raised from 800 to 1600, and you're also going to get 8 times MP from power spots, going from 120 to 820. And then finally, we're going to have a boosted shiny rate on the following Pokemon: Muna from Field Research, as well as 2km eggs, and Morlo from the Wild, as well as Field Research. Now, from Field Research and from eggs, I'm not entirely sure what the shiny rate is supposed to be, but I do know that from the wild encounters, it's going to be 1 out of 128. During this event, we're also going to have a paid timed research available for $2, which is going to give you encounters with Muna as well as Morlul. You're going to get 2 super incubators, which are going to be valued at 400 Pokecoins. And then finally, you're going to get an additional bonus of 1.5 times Hatch Stardust. So all things considered, I mean, this is basically kind of like a hatching event, but there's still some pretty good spawns in here, as well as a pretty cool GMAX Pokemon that's going to be debuting. That's going to be Gigantamax Rillaboom, available on May 30th as well as June 1st from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. local time, so basically the entire day. GMAX Rillaboom is going to be the best grass type attacker in max battles moving forward, so you definitely want to pay attention to it. The only downside here is that the shiny form isn't going to be available, which I get some players out there are a bit disappointed by this. I am too, but at the end of the day, it's still worth going out there to use your free MP to get a few. We're going to cover the best counters for GMAX Rillaboom later in the video, so if you guys want to actually fast forward to that right now, you can use the timestamps down below. Otherwise, let's go over all the featured Pokemon available during this event. Let's go ahead and start off with the wild encounters. We're going to get access to Chansey, Meryl, Furfrou, Morlul, Cutiefly, Komala, and Hatenna. And then from the rare encounters, we're going to get access to Snorlax and Chimecho. Now from Field Research, we're going to get access to Muna, Cutiefly, Morlul, Komala, and Hatenna. And then from the special 2km eggs, we're going to get access to Chingling, Muna, Spritzee, and Swirlix. Next up in Legendary Raids, we're going to get access to Tapu Bulu. In the Mega Raid rotation, we're going to have access to Mega Altaria. And then finally, in Max Battles, we'll have access to Dynamax Ghastly, Pidove, Rookidee, and Phalanx. Now keep in mind, not everything that I just mentioned will be worth paying attention to, but we'll cover the best Pokemon you'll want to hunt later in the video. Alright, so now let's take a look at Gigantamax Rillaboom, and we'll go over the best counters you guys want to have for this max battle. Now ideally, when it comes down to your max battle team, you want to go with 1 attacker and 2 tanks. As far as your best attackers go, you have Gigantamax Charizard with Dragon Breath, you have Gigantamax Lapras with Psywave, you have GMAX Gengar with Shadow Claw, you have regular Charizard with Fire Spin, Moltres with Fire Spin, Entei with Fire Spin, and then finally Articuno with Frost Breath. Now with that being said, I'm sure there's going to be some questions on why you want to use GMAX Charizard with Dragon Breath or even Psywave on GMAX Lapras. So basically when it breaks down, you want to go with a 0.5 second fast move ideally, but when it comes down to the GMAX Pokemon, their GMAX moves, when you Gigantamax them, are going to be set. So even though Dragon Breath is going to be used on GMAX Charizard, when you GMAX that Pokemon, it's still going to use a Fire-type moveset. Same thing for Lapras. Even though you're going to be using a Psychic-type fast move, when you GMAX that Pokemon, it's still going to use an Ice-type GMAX move. Comparing this to regular Dynamax Pokemon, their fast move is going to determine what moveset you're going to be using in that Dynamax phase. That's why you want to go with Fire Spin on regular Dynamax Charizard, but Dragon Breath on GMAX Charizard. I also want to mention that Dragon Breath is going to be a Legacy fast move, so I mean, you don't have to give it for your GMAX Charizard, but if you want it to be the most optimal, then definitely go with that. Now what's actually pretty cool about the best attackers for this GMAX raid is that they're also going to function as pretty good tanks as well. If you want a really good tank overall, the best one is going to be Blissey with Pound, but otherwise you can honestly just go with a lineup of like 2 really good attackers and then your Blissey and you should be solid. So basically, to just simplify this, just go with your best attackers and you should be fine. If you want to have a better tank, then go with Blissey because that's going to be the best option. Now when it comes down to your counters, you want to ideally evolve them and then power them up to around level 30. And then after that, you want to focus on upgrading the max moves before powering them up further. There isn't really a big benefit taking them to level 40 or even level 50. That's mostly just for endgame players. For newer players who are just getting into this and they want to get themselves a GMAX Rillaboom, honestly, this is the best approach. It's minimal Stardust, you don't have to spend that much candy either, and you should be able to build a solid team. Once again, you only need to have 3 Pokemon. That's not too bad. Next up, let's talk about the recommended party size, which is going to vary on a lot of different factors. A conservative estimate is probably going to be around 20 to 30 trainers. You can definitely get this done with less players than that. Honestly, in most scenarios, it's probably going to be fine with like 15, I'd say. Maybe even less than that. But the problem here that we kind of experienced during GMAX Machamp is that a lot of players are getting into this system for the very first time. Maybe it wasn't accessible to them before, or for whatever reason, like they're just now getting into Dynamax and Gigantamax. in which case they don't have their counters powered up, they don't even have their counters evolved sometimes, and trust me, that is just so frustrating to deal with, but it happens, and it's going to be this way for a little bit until people get up to speed. With the ability to remote raid into these max battles, it can definitely be a positive, but also a negative. The negative side of this is because PokeGenie hasn't actually put any restrictions, or requirements I should say, in place on their app, and usually for raid bosses that are kind of difficult, they do actually have you take screenshots to verify that you have proper counters. To be completely honest, I'm really not sure why PokeGenie hasn't done this yet. I mean, they've done this for raid battles in the past, so it just doesn't make sense here. I guess because the whole system's kind of new, so they're probably going to work it out in the future, but just again, like, be careful, because if you guys are going to be remote raiding into these, you will lose your remote raid pass if you guys end up losing that max battle. And because you're joining random people online, there's no guarantee that you can always rejoin when they start a new lobby. That is kind of problematic. These things have to get themselves worked out in the future, so as of right now, I still recommend attending any local events if you can, but of course if you can't get enough players together in your local area, remote raiding is going to be the next best option. I'm lucky enough that I actually have a pretty good local community, but I understand not everybody out there has access to something like this, so I mean, do the best that you can. I think moving forward things will get better in the near future, but you know, for the short term, it's probably going to be a little bit tougher than it should be. Now for anybody out there who has access to the adventure effect on White Kurum, which is going to be Ice Burn, this will increase your catch rate by 1.5 times, and it is also going to slow down the target ring, which will make it even easier to catch these Pokemon just by getting excellent throws. Combined together with Golden Raspberries, and you'll have the best chance of actually catching these. Now, that being said though, GMAX Snorlax when it came out was really difficult to catch, but this past weekend for GMAX Machamp, it was significantly easier. I don't think I encountered anybody in my local area who actually had one run away. I mean, keep in mind, like, most players caught them within like the first or second ball. I don't know if just GMAX Machamp was increased for that event specifically, but if you guys are ever having trouble, this adventure effect should make your life a little bit easier. Now additionally, on top of that, if you guys also have a solid group of trainers together doing like, you know, at least 2 to 3 of these within like a 30-minute time period, it would be a fantastic idea to drop a start piece. The base amount that you get from GMAX raids is going to be 25,000. With a start piece, it's going to go to 37.5 thousand. Without a doubt, this is definitely one of the best times to use start pieces in the game, but again, it's only if you're going to be able to get like 2 to 3 of these done within that 30-minute time period. If you can't, I would just take the Stardust and not worry about the start piece. You could also Lucky Egg if you want to as well. The experience is going to be 25,000, 50,000 with the Lucky Egg. And then for the pay-to-win players out there, you guys can also double these with 200 Pokecoins per reward, which is pretty expensive, but some players who just want to get to the, you know, most amount of Stardust, most amount of experience possible, you can definitely do that too. That pretty much covers GMAX Rillaboom in a nutshell. It's a pretty straightforward GMAX raid boss. I think it's going to be fine for most of you guys out there, at least I hope it is. But now let's take a look at the best Pokemon to focus on during this event, and we have quite a few that are actually pretty good. The first Pokemon is going to be Chansey as a gym defender, arguably the best gym defender in Pokemon GO. The reason for this is based on how the gym decay system works, so low CP Pokemon are actually better than high CP Pokemon, because the high CP Pokemon are going to decay faster. This is also why Chansey is actually better than Blissey as a gym defender. But speaking of Blissey, Blissey is also going to be a good Pokemon to build, not only if you want to use it as a gym defender option, because let's say somebody else already put a Chansey in the gym, but also the candy for the Dynamax version, because you do want to ideally upgrade Max Guard and Max Heal all the way to level 3, and then going from level 2 to level 3 actually requires a decent amount of extra large candy. That's going to take a decent amount of time to get. But, you know, thanks to one of the seasonal bonuses right now, we actually have guaranteed extra large candy from trading Pokemon until June 3rd. So if you catch a bunch of Chansey during this event, and you trade them with somebody else, you can get those extra large candy pretty easily. So I would strongly recommend taking advantage of that if possible, because Blissey is by far the best tank you guys can use in max battles currently, and it's probably going to stay that way moving forward. And the dual benefit here is that if you also end up building it, you can also drop it in gyms, so it's totally a win-win. Alright, next up we're going to have Marill, which evolves into a Zoo Marill. This will be ranked in the top 20 for the Open Great League, so really good option right now for the Open Great League meta, but also a Pokemon that has maintained meta relevance for quite some time. Azumarill was like one of the OGs that you would build. Now, this is also going to be one of these super extra large Pokemon builds for the Open Great League, which means you will need to get a lot of extra large candy. We're talking like the full amount here. It'll most likely take you a decent amount of time to actually gather the extra large candy to build this Pokemon, but trust me when I say it is totally worth it. Next up, we're going to have Furfrou, which is going to have multiple trims, mainly just a Pokemon for collectors if they want to go for the shiny variants with all the different trims. I still haven't gotten my first shiny Furfrou yet, even though this was in like the research breakthrough box for the longest time. It just never happened, man. So yeah, I know a lot of people don't really like this Pokemon, but as a collector or someone who likes to collect various Pokemon in this game, that's definitely a Pokemon I need to be clicking on during this event. The next Pokemon is going to be Morlul, which is going to be a boosted Stardust Pokemon, but also a shiny boosted Pokemon specifically during this event. We mentioned that it was going to be available in field research as well as in the wild, so keep in mind, this Pokemon is going to be really difficult to catch. We recently had a Spotlight Hour not that long ago, and my god, the catch rate was awful on it, so stock up on raspberries, stock up on golden raspberries, because you'll definitely need them to catch this Pokemon, but it is going to award you a decent amount of Stardust every single time you catch it, so it's easily worth the effort. Next up, we're going to have Hatenna, which evolves into Hatterene, and it's also going to have a future GMAX form, so you do want to actually farm candy on this Pokemon right now. As far as its raid relevance, it's not like it's a super good fairy type attacker, but you can definitely use it as one. Not to mention, Hatenna hasn't actually been featured in Pokemon GO that frequently, so I would farm this as much as possible. I'm definitely going to be doing that. Following that, we're going to have Snorlax, which is going to be relevant as a gym defender. Not as good as Chansey or Blissey, to be honest, but, decent option you guys can go with. If you were able to get GMAX Snorlax a little while ago, you might also want candy for the GMAX form. Compared to Dynamax Blissey though, Dynamax Blissey is still much better than even GMAX Snorlax. The GMAX only really matters for the attack, and because Snorlax is going to be used as a tank, doesn't really apply here. So yeah, you could build it, but if you have a really good Blissey, so much better. The next Pokemon is going to be Chimecho, which is actually a pretty difficult Pokemon to catch. I mean, I would say it's actually even more difficult than Morlul. So if you have Golden Raspberries saved up, I would actually use them on Chimecho. This is going to give you a decent amount of Stardust. I think it's like 1,000 Stardust per catch, so it's actually really, really good. Otherwise, Chimecho doesn't really have any raid relevance. I think it might have some like really niche play in PvP, but that's like in very specific type cups. Now, speaking of Chimecho, we're also going to have the baby form Chingling, the pre-evolution, available in special 2km eggs like I talked about earlier. This is a pretty rare shiny to get in game, so if you want to hunt this, I can definitely understand. If you don't because the rest of the egg pool is kind of trash, I also understand. So don't worry about this one too much, but if you want to go for that shiny baby, possibly even that hundo, then make sure that you're hatching 2km eggs during this event. I don't think you really have to use super incubators or just regular incubators. The infinite one should be fine. But again, I'm speaking as a free-to-play player here, so I mean, if you want to go hard for them, I guess it's okay. I just don't think using incubators on 2km eggs is ever really that worth it. Now, of course, speaking of 2km eggs, we also have Munna, which is going to be shiny boosted. I'm not entirely sure what the shiny boost is going to be in the egg pool. If anybody knows, let us know in the comment section down below. But Munna is also going to be available in field research as well, so I would just hunt it through that and not really worry about these eggs. Next up, we have Tapu Bulu, which is going to be relevant as a grass type attacker, more or less like a decent grass type attacker. It's not like it's super meta relevant, but the main relevance is going to fall in the Open Master League. It currently ranks in the top 20 right now, which is excellent for that meta. Dual functionality is always a big incentive, and Tapu Bulu is going to get access to Nature's Madness during this rotation as well. Now, while you're focused on Tapu Bulu, I would also recommend doing at least like 1 to 2 Mega Altaria raids just to get the energy to Mega Evolve it for the first time. Mega Altaria isn't going to be relevant for anything except for candy farming, so you really just need to get the initial energy, and then after that you can just focus the rest of your passes on Tapu Bulu. The next Pokemon is going to be Dynamax Rillaboom, which is going to have a future GMAX form as Corviknight. Now, this Pokemon hasn't been featured that frequently in Pokemon GO recently. I mean, to be honest, it was just released a few months ago. So if you don't have enough candy for this just yet, that totally makes sense. But you definitely do want to gather enough candy for this GMAX Pokemon so that when it does come out, you can upgrade the max attack all the way up to max 3 immediately. We're also going to have access to Dynamax Ghastly, so if you don't want to focus on Rillaboom, you can also farm this as well for candy on the GMAX form. We talked about GMAX Rillaboom earlier, so I'm not going to go over this Pokemon again, but just as a quick reminder, this is going to be the best grass type attacker for Gigantamax Pokemon moving forward, so there is nothing better coming out. This is the pinnacle right here. Even though the shiny form isn't released, I still recommend doing these. And a really quick reminder for any of the Pokemon that I just mentioned, we are going to have the guaranteed extra large candy from trading Pokemon if you're level 31 or higher, available for the next few days. They are going to end on June 3rd, so if you don't take advantage of this, trust me, you will definitely regret it. I still got a few Pokemon that I gotta get traded because I want some more candy on them. Definitely get this done because I don't know when we're gonna get this bonus again. It's gonna be at least a minimum of 3 months. Speaking of candy though, I do also want to go over the best Mega Evolution type active during this event for candy bonuses. So by far the best Mega, and surprisingly the best Mega, is going to be one that was released like a month ago. It's going to be Mega Audina, which takes on the dual typing of Normal and Fairy. This Pokemon is going to cover Chansey, Furfrou, Snorlax, Marill, Morlul, and Tapu Bulu. So honestly, a really good Mega type active during this event. Another good option is going to be Mega Gardevoir, which is going to take on the dual typing of Fairy and Psychic. This will cover Marill, Hatenna, Morlul, Chimecho, and Tapu Bulu. And then one more Mega option you guys can use is going to be Mega Pidgeot, which takes on the dual typing of Normal and Flying. this will give you access to Chansey, Furfrou, Snorlax, and Rookidee. If you have any of these at Mega Level 3, prioritize that over the others for increased candy and extra large candy. Otherwise, just go with your highest level Mega. With that being said though, that pretty much covers everything I feel like you guys need to know to make the most out of this event. Best of luck out there, and if you guys need help managing your Pokemon storage before Pokemon Go Fest, then check out this video next.